Okay, I'd like to do something a little bit tricky. I hope this won't be a problem for you, but I'd like to go back to chapter 4 and just make a couple of different graphs. But I'm not going to use the data that Field uses in chapter 4. I'm going to continue using our exam anxiety data because we've got it up, we're familiar with it. Why not, right? I just wanted to create a histogram. For example, let's come into graphs, and the histograms in Field are on page 129, 131. But here in the chart builder, I'm going to open this dialog box. I'm going to reset, and I'm going to come down here to histogram. Okay, a histogram is a wonderful chart for any variable that is continuous. So I may want to look at exam performance. How did our students do on this exam? So I highlight this variable and I pull it down here onto my x-axis and I click OK. Well, let's see how our students did on this exam. Okay, it's not bad for a normal curve. It's a little bit chunky in the middle. What we would say is it has maybe thick tails. I have quite a few students here who were close to 100. Lots of students in the 90s. Someone here who was probably feeling very sick that day. But this is my histogram of exam performance. What if I wanted to look at, let's look at, and I can do it from here. I don't have to go back to my data. Let's look at exam anxiety. I'm going to pull exam performance back into my list and pull exam anxiety down. Let's take a look. Let's see what my histogram looks like. Okay, now exam anxiety, I would say, is less like a normal distribution because it's skewed to the left. Do you see I have just a few people here who are kind of unusual. They just don't get very nervous. And then a big chunk of my students are very anxious. Most of my scores look like they're above 80 over here. So when it comes to exam anxiety, I've got a little bit of a skew, and I may not want to say I can assume that these scores are normally distributed. Let's just look at our other variable while we're here, just because it's kind of fun. I'll put exam anxiety back, and let's look at the time they spent revising, okay? So I pull that over again into the histogram. Let's see. Now this is skewed again. Now this is a right skewed. You see the tail comes off to the right. And that means there were just a few students out here who spent a lot of time revising. But most of our students spent between 0 and 30 minutes. That's where the bulk of our scores are. And that's why these bars on the histogram are so high. And so I could use these to argue any of a number of things. I might say, maybe I cannot assume that these are normally distributed, or I might say, well, these are normally distributed with a skew. The skew is to be expected, and some of the things that I'd like to do with them are quite robust. So I may move forward with my assumption of normality, or I may decide that I need to go back and either check my scores, which I don't think these are wrong. I think these are probably right, and possibly use a non-parametric statistic if I think that my skew is too pronounced or might introduce some kind of error that I didn't intend to be there. We'll talk more about this in class. So those are histograms. Those are probably the most important charts that you can make in terms of making sure that your data looks okay. Before we do anything else, we want to make sure our data is all right. Thanks.